Morning, everybody. Fresh and alert? All right. So I'm looking forward to a fairly interesting session over the next 30 to 40 minutes. Whenever you talk about social media, people are very divided on opinions. And given that we've had the influencer list come out yesterday, I've had quite a few people even reach out to me and talk about, "Fayda kya hota hai influencer banke? You know, what are you doing? What are you achieving?" So I'm hoping that we can answer some of those questions. I'm hoping that we can provide some, share some of our own experiences, and even provide some guidance on what really works, what doesn't work, and what to do if you get in trouble, because it happens. It happened to me, it happened to each one of us. My challenges with social media are as much at home as they are at work. I've had great experiences on both sides. At home, it's a challenge with my wife because I refuse to accept my father-in-law's invites on Facebook. So that's the bad and the ugly side of social media for me. And the day my dad took up WhatsApp 2 years ago was when my life went to hell, because he will send me 10 videos every day, and then he'll call me in the evening to check if I saw them. And I hate watching videos on my phone. I don't do it. That's not me. So I'm sure we've all got some of these stories and these experiences. We've got a wonderful panel here, and without taking more time, I'm going to kick off and ask each of them to start sharing what they see as the good, the bad, and the ugly of social media. We are also going to have a Twitter stream running at the back, so watch the panel. We are going to run some polls online. We are going to put up questions online, and we're looking forward to you sharing your thoughts, as well as any questions that you have, if you can post on Twitter, which we'll then curate and respond to you. Shall we begin with you?
Good morning. Thank you. So just to set the context of this panel discussion and my views on it, so there's this 8-year-old in the school who thinks that the green dot on the tiger biscuits means the tiger is online on G-Talk. There is a 14-year-old who is disappointed with her new house, which is bigger than the earlier one, just because Swiggy does not deliver to the new house. There is a 28-year-old new mom traveling on work, connecting with the 7-month-old son via WhatsApp video call just to make her presence felt. There's a 42-year-old prof like me who runs her class homeworks on Twitter. There's a 50-year-old homemaker who has just rediscovered her passion for business by social selling on Facebook. There's a 55-year-old who has just discovered blogging and the joy of writing. And there is this senior citizen who has found heaven in WhatsApp and Facebook to fight his loneliness and free time. So ladies and gentlemen, the point is that social media is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, it's here to stay. So if I give my views on the good, bad, and ugly, yes, like any other media platform, it has all three sides. But for me, good is more than the bad and the ugly part. And when I'm talking of good, let me bring in the branding and marketing background. I see the strength of social media in creating a very, very strong personal brand. So it is a huge, huge platform where you can use your content to build up conversations, which will lead to bringing communities together, your audiences together, and you keep working on your networks and you keep working on your content strength to create a face of your own self, to build your personal brand. Same applies to the corporate brand as well. What you tweet, what you post becomes a very big contributory factor to what you want to be seen as, what you want to portray as a brand. And I believe in the 3L format of social media, the good part, because it's a huge platform on which brands can learn. So it's a listening tool from where you learn a lot, you get insights of your followers, your audience, your employees, and you leverage on those learning. So it is listening which leads to learning, which will lead to a lot of leveraging, which you can do on the insights that are generated. If I come to the bad part, yes, it is, social media is madness. If you look at the number of tweets that go every 60 seconds, if you see the number of posts that go every minute, it's madness. But there's a method to the madness, but unfortunately very few people understand the method behind the madness. That's when it gets really, really bad. So organizations try to have social media conduct policies, but again, you are challenging on the freedom and privacy of the employee. So you don't know who is saying what at what time, how that what is damaging the brand of the organization, the personal brand of the employee. So that way it can turn bad. Plus, the content out in open is open for interpretation for people. So you don't know how people are going to interpret it. So according to me, the bad can be controlled if you understand clearly what to post, but more importantly, what not to post as a personal brand or as an organization brand. If I come to the ugly part, where things get worse and where you are hit almost by a crisis kind of a situation, the ugly part goes back to the term called mob mentality, which we all know, because social media is a big mob. It's a big mob of people. And while India runs on two major insights called Jugaad and Tamasha, everybody loves Tamasha, especially when it's happening in someone else's house, and that's how big bosses are running. Shows like Big Boss is running. So the Tamasha element, excitement, which social media gives, can really turn things ugly into a crisis situation, like the recent Snapchat CEO statement, which the MC was just saying, or the sexual harassment charges, which an employee will go vocal on her blog content, and when everyone will pounce on the organization without knowing a cent of it. So when will the bad turn into ugly? It's just a matter of second. So of course it's good, bad, and ugly, but I believe more in the good part of social media.
Brilliant, thank you. I love your 3L, listen, learn, and leverage. Over to you, Aish.
Okay, I actually don't work in advertising. I don't work in HR. I run an advertising agency, and I'll actually look at this completely from a personal perspective. For me, social media is the biggest disruptor that exists today, and I'll tell you why. HR is a lot about control. Now, if you look at it, no company will run if there are certain amount of controls not put in. Now, again, if I pull you back, any company is almost like a commune. And you work in a commune that's professionally managed. So imagine hippies being run professionally. That's the kind of scenario that companies are. So when HR puts policies down and HR puts practices down, they put down because they want you to work together. They want you to create together. What social media does, it completely destroys whatever control people are trying to put in. I know of a company which has hired a guy from CBI to be the chief enforcement officer. He actually looks at what you guys are doing online and in real time comes to you and says that this is something that's breaching the policy, and if you do it again, you'll be sacked, and people have lost jobs. It's a very, very large organization. So even that is happening. And now when social media starts to come in, the same chief enforcement officer doesn't know where to hide, because people start to talk about it. And the pushback means the potential employees refuse to join. And that is the power that social media gives to you. Yesterday, you were dependent on what you wrote on your CV to get a job. Today, and it works both sides. Now, you can actually create a personal branding, and a very powerful personal branding on what you do online, what you post on Instagram, what you post on your blog, what you do with Facebook, what you do with Twitter. It's actually available in the same way to the recruiter who can look at what you guys are doing online and have a point of view on whether you want to be hired or not to be hired. So sometimes beyond professional achievements, you can actually lose a job because what you are doing online is something that is not good or something that does not conform to the kind of people are looking at. Or you can get a job which is disproportionate to what you were looking at because you're very powerful on what you're doing online. So it's actually up to you what you do online and how you create that entire appeal online. Again, to me, the ugly part of social media is very, very personal. It's destroying your ability to express. And I'll tell you what I mean. Language started as pictures. If you go back in anthropology, if you go back in archaeology, the expression was always pictures. There were no words. Pictures eventually became words, and people started to write. And people took long time to get that skill. Writing was a skill, or expression was a skill. Today, you're back to pictures. And unfortunately, the devices that you use, when you write a plane, it gives you a picture and you go to the picture. We were taught in school that you finish a sentence with a full stop. Today you finish a sentence with parenthesis and a semicolon in whichever way you want to use it. It is killing. For me, it is killing the entire ability to express. And that is what you will see, or at least I see across social media in a large abundance. Because earlier, you would say it in the way you want to say it and make sure that people get the emotion behind it. That was the ability to express, and that was the ability to write. Today we all write, but I don't think we get the context of writing correct. And we try and get that context of writing by putting in some kind of a picture to it. Now that's really taking you back to caveman days. Nothing can be uglier than that. I mean, forget mob mentality, forget anything else. I don't know where we are going as human race. Because as human race, if we start to go back in time the way we are going back in time right now, it is extremely dangerous, and it's extremely, I don't know how to put it, because it's really something that I never thought will happen, because the reason you learn languages in school is because you wanted to be sure that you express it well. Now, one challenge that I face today with a lot of new young professionals who walk in is that they can't write a presentation. Actually, if you take away PowerPoint from them, they can't speak. Give them a device, they become extremely vocal. Now, that dichotomy is something that needs to be bridged as quickly as you guys can bridge it, because that will help you as you progress in life.
You just reminded me of my English teacher. And Hindi teacher. Bhasha to ab khatam ho rahi hai. But thank you. Interesting. I think some troll fodder out there. Huh? Over to you, Nathan.
Thank you. By the way, he is known as Google Gupta. So, Google Gupta,
That's his Twitter ID.
That's his Twitter ID. He said HR is about control. I don't want to get into, yeah. So, but let me talk about social media. Social media is really like fire. So what fire does is it cooks food, which is good. It can cook up things, which is bad. And it can cook you up. And so we've really got to understand how we use social media. The good side, and Falguni, you mentioned about it, it's about how you create a personal brand. You can create a brand for your own organization. You can really reach people that are out there. You can reach all the passive job seekers, not the active ones. Don't ever get on to people who say readily available in 7 days. So you have a big reach out there. You can also retain a lot of people. You can have a humongous influence, and you may not even know this. I'll give you an example. You know, I didn't realize this. On and off, I put out things like office truths, the hashtag office truths or life truths. And one of the things that I put out some time ago was, chin up, strive on. The dark clouds will abate, and the journey will be a lot less difficult. A very, very innocuous quote. It just occurred to me that life has just got to be something that you have to engage with. And I forgot all about it. Next day morning, there was a personal message for me. And this came in from somebody that follows me. And he had written, Nathan, you have no idea what this quote meant to me. I had almost given up on life, and this infused some new life into me. At that point in time, I started to tremble, because I never knew that there was something that you could do that would affect people. The other one that I also believe that you can influence a lot of your own managers in your organization, because you put out these big things out there, these presentation decks, and teach people how you should and should not look at people. Promote people early. My mantra is promote people early, make sure that they are competent. Even if they are 60% there, do it. I put out a quote some time ago which says, if you don't promote your own people, somebody else will. And then going after them and making promises never work. It's got a viewership of over 10 lakh people. And what it did was, suddenly within my own organization, I found that there were a lot of managers who suddenly woke up to the fact that, hey, we do have gems in our midst. So that's all about the good side. The bad side is, you always have in organizations people who don't get selected. And they would always use this to engage with you in a dysfunctional way. So you must know how to engage with them. Sometimes you don't even do that. Sometimes you just clam up, you don't want. The ugly side is, and I've not seen a lot of the ugly sides, but I'm reminded when you talked about Facebook, is one of these holy parties. I put out a couple of pictures of one of my friends having a glass of beer, and his family thought that he was a teetotaler. It just happened that he just went, I had to go and apologize. I had to make up all kinds of lies. I had to tell the father and the mother that it was actually my mug that he happened to carry at that point in time. I was lying to my teeth. It didn't matter whether I was going to hell or heaven, because for me, it was all about how do I save the situation. So it can get you into trouble as well. In organizations, it can be a PR nightmare. So those are my initial thoughts.
Very helpful. So was this incident ugly for you or ugly for the beer mug holder?
It was ugly for him. I don't think the family ever forgave me for that. But anyways, I'm still trying to make peace.
I can imagine. Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that brief kickoff and sharing of your thoughts. Falguni, we were having this wonderful chat out there when we were prepping. I'd love for you to be able to share the bad of social media, how it has affected you at times, and how you deal with it.
So I believe as a woman on social media, there's a very interesting perspective that I can bring in because we face all kinds of trolls and abuses on social media. That is the bad and the ugly part of social media. So the whole idea of these taboo subjects being discussed out in open on social media, like starting from menstruation to personal hygiene to sex education to domestic violence to equality, I quite write on these subjects, and which draws a lot of flack from certain people who just don't get it. So it will lead to very unhealthy conversations, because some conversation which you wanted to do on, let us say, child abuse and its impact, sociological and psychological impact on the adult when he grows as an employee, you started it in a healthy way, but it takes a U-turn, it takes an ugly shape because of trolls, because of people commenting without any knowledge and context, because it's, as you remember, I've said, it's mob mentality. Everybody wants to have a say. And on social media, everybody thinks he or she is an expert. So there, what I try to do as a woman on social media is I guard myself very, very clearly. So I'm very clear when I want to convert and when I want to cut. So there are two types of strategies that I adopt. I either try to convert, in the sense I converse more, I get into communication, I comment on the person's comment again further, trying to make him or her understand, and I try to convert the bad into good, make him see the point of view. But if it's beyond this effort and energy, it doesn't require to be invested, it's just cut. You usually cut the conversation, you block the conversation, because that's the wise way to go.
I just want to understand this a little more. You know, women are anyway unequal, right? In so many ways. I remember my younger sister being told not to smile so much and not to open the door after 5. So you're always encouraged to cut. How does it feel that even on social media you can't be fully expressive? How do you deal with that?
In order to be fully expressive, I'm cutting unwanted people. Yeah, I'm not actually accepting your ability to cut my conversation, because my voice is my voice on social media. But there is an undemanded effort and energy, and I know this person is not going to convert. He's not trying to understand. That's when I'm going to cut the person, so that I can continue raising my voice on pertinent issues.
Can you give us an example of what you mean by cut? What does cut look like?
So, for example, cut means I'll stop further communication. I'll stop responding. I'll stop reacting to that person. At a second level, I'll unfollow and make him unfollow. Third level, I'll block. Because I don't think in today's age of anyways stress and fast life, we need negative energy. We need positivity around us. So that's the whole idea. And through my fashion page on Facebook, I work on body positivity. Lovely. So I'm a plus size fashion blogger, along with my passion, which is teaching. I'm a professor at MICA. So in that race also, when you talk of body positivity, body shaming, skin shaming, when you talk of identity and equality at home and at work, there are a lot of people who will not take it in the right sense. So that's where I employ this strategy.
Very, very helpful. Any experiences that either of you have had
Bob?
in terms of having faced a challenge on social media? I know you shared yours. Anything that you would like to address?
So I actually write a column every week on what I see in advertising happening in that week, and I do it for a very large trade portal, and it comes out every week. And so every week I'm taking on a very large agency or sometimes a very large global brand. So I get my fair share of people coming back to me and hitting me every week. So there is a campaign that was done by Ogilvy for Rajasthan tourism. This is Kuch Bhi Dikh Jaye. And I, coming from that state, felt that the campaign was completely wrong, both in terms of context and in terms of content. And the pushback from Ogilvy on that was like, really, the whole organization was after me, because it was, Piyush has worked on it, how can you say something about the campaign? So you get that quite often. And there is no way to avoid it. There is not that you can avoid it. So either you shut up and go back, because that is what they expect you to do, or you pick and choose who you want to respond to and who you don't want to respond to, which is what I normally do. I pick and choose who I want to respond to. Whoever I don't want to respond to, I don't respond to. A lot of people walk away feeling that they have won, but that's okay. That really is not. So the analogy to me is very simple. On social media, if you've come on my page and started to have a conversation with me, it's like you coming into my drawing room. And I will treat you with the similar kind of thing as I would treat you if I've called you home and I want to have a conversation. So there's a lot of conversation that I would not want to respond to because I don't think it needs a response. And a lot of conversation I'll keep on responding till I think that the conversation is a mutually accepted normal conversation. But at some point of time when I feel it's going out of hand, I'll just give it up. So it happens to me every week, because every week a column will come out and I know some people will go after me.
So I just want to probe this a little deeper. When you started, you said I write a column every week. And then you said usually it means I take on some agency or the other. Now, is that a marketing or a branding tactic?
Actually, we guys do very bad work as an industry. So it's not very difficult. So it takes a Pepsi to put out Kendall Jenner and then put out the kind of ad it puts out. And then life of people like us who comment on advertising becomes very easy. If they did better work, they will get better comments. But that's our industry. I mean, we've lost our way as the industry. But there are times when you find really good advertising. And it's not that good advertising doesn't get picked up and good advertising doesn't get talked about.
Yeah.
But that's how life has become. So Abhay Deol coming and really going after people who do skin whitening. And skin whitening can only be done by enamel paint. It can't be done by a cream. But that's a good thing that has happened. And he's using it in a really positive way.
I was going to check whether you were an unhappy employee, but you explained it. You know, I recently had, if you have a fair number of people on your LinkedIn, you'll have hundreds, you wake up to hundreds of mails anyway from your office. And you have a lot of messages. And I'm one of those who responds diligently to every single message that comes my way. It's just my habit. Yeah. And I think I had very good teachers. And I had a gentleman called Bob Chapman, who was once my boss years ago. And Bob used to be very courteous. And I felt that we could all imbue such habits. So I started to do this on social media as well. And here was this gentleman who said, hey, this is what I have, so tell me whether your organization is going to. So I wrote him a very nice, kindly apply onto my website and something, and wish you all the best. His immediate response was so sharp. He says, am I not good enough? Are you going to pick up only people from these schools? And my, it was just coming in my face. And to the point, do I engage, do I cut? I felt I should engage. So I wrote him a very nice, long mail of endearment saying, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I apologize if I've hurt your sentiments, and please do send it, and here is, etc., etc. The good news is he has not come back to me. Perhaps he also felt that he should have been a lot more courteous. But it happens, it cuts both ways.
True.
But it's a lot of work.
What keeps you going in spite of the bad and the ugly? So we've heard from all three of you. There is the good, and you kicked it off so well saying the good is larger, stronger than the bad and the ugly. And I think that's true for all of us. But what is it that you draw from it that keeps you coming back to social media, keeps you engaged, keeps you growing your engagement? And it's just getting tougher, isn't it? There's Insta, there's Twitter, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook. I don't even understand Snapchat.
Yeah.
So what's the hook?
So for me, the hook is this whole thing around, you really never know what people pick up. And is there a way that I can participate in lives beyond other than just my very own? And is there a way that I can give back? And if I could have done something for just one person out there, I feel that day would have been a day well spent.
I think you cannot walk away from it because you would really want to tell world something that you want to tell the world. And there is no better broadcast medium than this today. Yesterday you couldn't do it, today you can do it. So as he's saying, it takes, even if you impacted one person, that's good enough for you to go back and start talking and keep doing this. So it's very difficult to walk away from this because this is how life has become. You do want to express, do want to tell a good thing that you have. And from your perspective, every time you're going and doing something, you're doing a good thing. And if you continue doing that, somewhere it works and very difficult to walk away.
So interesting. So for you, it's about giving. For you, it's about I have a story to tell and it gives me a space to express myself.
Yeah, so for me, after 2 decades in teaching, I believe if I was not on social media, my influence and impact was limited to the geographic reach that I have or to my classroom. So where I believe that after 2 decades in teaching, I have reached a level where I can learn beyond my geographic reach, where I can give beyond my geographic reach. I can influence minds, young minds. I can counsel students. I can counsel women on their identity issues. And there, I think I'm taking the help of social media as a tool. Whether it is my Falguni's Fashion Fundas, which is my fashion page, or whether it is my Ask Anything on Twitter open chat forum, which I have for my students, where for 2 hours they can raise any questions they want. Or, and I think another very important one is the giving back, which I think both of them also said. But the second thing which draws me like a magnet to social media is the ability to engage. It's nowhere found else, right? So the ability to engage and ask a teacher who is teaching a 22-year-old in a post-graduation class and has to connect and engage with the students whose attention span is like the time that a goldfish takes to blink.
Yeah.
And if I have to maintain those engagement rides with them, I need to think beyond my PowerPoints. I need to think beyond my lectures. So for example, at MICA, I run this Twitter homework. So where after every class, they have to do 3 tweets. It's very simple, right? So we call it CLHW hashtag, which is cute little homework. It's cute because it's little. So in their mind, I'm trying to build that up that, oh, it's so little. You just have to do 3 tweets. And I'm talking to them in a language which they understand well. I'm going in their world. I'm not drawing them to my world. I'm not asking them to write a term paper for every class. That's my world. But Twitter and Facebook is their world. So I run this common hashtag called MICA@swag, right? And it helps me track down who has done and who has not done. At the end of the course curriculum, they have a rich resource, 3 learnings from each class. So 60 learnings they already have. Their revision notes are handy for them. So I always believe that social media is less of technology and it's more of psychology and sociology. If you can understand this well, then you know the power that the engagement brings by using it. So I think influencing, learning, and engagement are my key drivers.
Very helpful. Just a quick check. We'll be with you with Q&A in 2 minutes, but we have polls going on the SHRM app. We have polls going on Twitter right now with respect to this chat. And those of you who have questions or thoughts, please post them using the SHRM Tech hashtag so we can pick them up. Also hashtag SM. Yeah? So the other thing that's opened up for me is how each of you has a strategy and a thought out method. You know why you're on social media and you have a method of engagement. For you, it's your weekly blog. For you, it's this daily post that you put up. For you, it's whether it's your Ask Me Anything strategy that you employ. How did you get to a point where you discovered this?
So I think for me, it started more by accident than by design. I just happened to post something in Facebook. I have no recollection how the first one started, but it had a lot of comments. And when you're liked by somebody or somebody posts something, it's you start to want a little bit more of that. And so I said, okay, so here is something, I've got onto something. So then I said, okay, I must do the next one. It's almost got to a point that when I sit on a plane, which is the time when I have a lot of time, I would start to think, okay, now what do I post tomorrow? Or what has happened during the day that has impacted me? And very much like Falguni that you mentioned, what does the day look like and what has happened to me? And is there a way that I can use this to influence? So it started with this little bit of likes and comments, and then I think I just got hooked.
Very interesting.
For me, it got deepened because of the kind of work we do. Because we do a lot of work on social media and take a lot of brands social and create content for them and do communication for them. This is where we started to feel, at least I started to feel, that you got to have a sense on what you are doing there and how you are doing there. And that's how it got in there. And I was very clear, I'm not taking my agency's work and putting it up on my pages because that doesn't work and I don't need to do that. So that is when all of this started to come together and say, okay, let's find a way of keeping this engaged. And so you keep discovering new stories, new interesting things. So I don't know if you've heard, I mean, a lot of you might know there is a guy called PewDiePie. And I don't know if you've heard of PewDiePie, but a 14-year-old can kill gaming industry. On YouTube, I think he has 4 million subscribers. In India, there is not a single person who has 4 million subscribers. And a 14-year-old boy, really bad videos, bad as in really bad videos. But if he goes and says that this game is bad, the game tanks.
Oh boy.
Very interesting.
That's a 14-year-old boy.
Would you just share with the audience what you were sharing with us about how in your organization attendance Twitter pe lagta hai?
So this is again interesting. If you go back to my handle, you'll see I mark my attendance here by using a hashtag called PresentSir. And which is what we do. We have 50 of us. Every morning, 50 of us go back on Twitter to mark the attendance. And it's not to say that I'm in office. This is to say mentally I'm at work. And this is the thing that I'm wanting to do today. And that's what we do every day across the organization. So we use this in the most innovative way possible.
So for me, I think at a personal level, I'm a very extrovert and a conversation-loving person. So that drew me close to social media, wherein I saw the impact and the reach that it can have. So I thought it was just in time when Google and Wikipedias of the world were threatening the existence of teacher teaching and a classroom environment. That's when professionally I started drawing benefits from social media. But as a strategy, if I can leave my 2 pieces for the audiences, that I think as a strategy, you need to understand what platform stands for what. You cannot post the same content across platform. You use bots, you use Hootsuite. If you post the same content, it's going to be spam. So in my mind, I'm very clear about what platform stands for what and what kind of content goes. So for example, a Snapchat is like a monkey, if I'm giving you a metaphor. You have to do monkeying around. So you keep snapping. But when you see a beautiful peacock dancing in the rain, it has to be Instagram because it stands for visual beauty. Right? So Instagram is visual content. Your Snapchat is monkeying around, which also you can use it to your advantage. And I'll give you an example in a short while. Your Twitter is like a deer. It runs very fast. It's spontaneous. You cannot edit. And it runs like this. So if you've missed out one day, you've missed out on hell lot of content. Your Facebook is like your friendly neighborhood dog, full of warmth, friendships. LinkedIn is a wolf where you have to be street smart, you have to be cunning, you have to present the right face because LinkedIn is a professional network. Now, if you understand this, that means the dancing peacock can never come on Facebook. It doesn't need to. It has its own space and worth on Instagram. And now I'll tell you how you can use the monkeying around also as a strategy. So teenagers mostly are on Snapchat, and our students are 24 hours on Snapchat. Right now they are doing their internships with interesting agencies, corporates, and brands, and they're Snapchatting the whole day. So we are building up an Instagram story from that, a day in the life of a MICA intern. And now that is giving an idea to the prospective students of what internship means and what these students are doing. So it's a smart way to channelize Snapchat content into Instagram story, using it on the MICA Instagram handle and using it to our advantage.
Super. Thank you so much. I hope this has been an enlightening session for you guys. We're going to throw it open for Q&A now. If you've posted questions on Twitter, or if you have anything to ask right now, please go ahead.
Hi, I have a question, probably maybe because of the ignorance. What is your view on having a regulator, in India, specifically with the way there's a lot of abuse that is happening and a lot of content that we don't want to see, or probably we don't want our children or the next generation to see, whether it is photographs, videos, or images and the remarks, right? I'm interested to know if you are aware, and this is more of ignorance, as I said, I probably don't know. Is there a step or the comment that is taking, and what would be your view on this?
There is no regulator, but all social media platforms in the country have to adhere to country laws. And that's how it exists today. Now, a lot of abuse happens and a lot of stuff gets posted. I don't know if you read, there is a Supreme Court judgment yesterday which says the WhatsApp admins can be arrested and put behind bars for circulating stuff that does not conform to law. I don't know regulator, because regulator, wherever you put regulator in media business, it messes things more than it really clears things up. Censor board is a prime example of how, despite censor, films don't do what they're supposed to do and things can slip by. And I really don't know if all of us in this room need somebody knocking on our doors in the middle of the night saying, you posted this, now we'll take you and put behind bars. I mean, I don't know if that needs to happen, because that's exactly what can happen if you put a regulator in place. But you have to adhere to law. Yeah. And that's how all these organizations are.
Okay, may I ask the next question? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we talked of the good, bad, and ugly. I would like to say that there's another face of it which is disputable. So for example, a BSF Jawan posting about in the social media about the food that is being served in the canteen, or maybe Sonu Nigam tweeting something disputable. So maybe if we can touch upon this subject of disputable, is it something that may need a discussion or may need a point of view from one of the panelists? That is what I wanted to say. Yeah.
So I would say this is absolutely in the zone of what I call as bad. Because anything which is bad can get to worse. Yeah. So anything which is disputable will fall absolutely right there in this bracket called bad. You never know how this is going to turn, and you either engage with it or you cut it. But that's how you do that. I mean, if you look at it, you don't need any more category as such. I think what we need is, we need a fair assessment of how do we deal with that. So in your own head, is this something that you should take up or not? That's the judgment that you have to exercise.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier, one of you said that social media is like a mob. There's absolutely no reasoning with a mob, is there?
Yeah.
As she said, we love either jugaad or tamasha, and all that you are saying is pure tamasha. And at times the tamasha is created, and at times the whole tamasha is actually planned and planted. Yeah. And that's where it starts to lose objectivity.
And for me, I think I agree with my panelists that it's the bad part, because when a BSF Jawan posts, or suppose if I am posting as Professor Falguni and I'm posting as Falguni, but since last 13 years, if I have been working with an institution, for the audience, it's difficult to detach the face and the corporate brand. Exactly. So while you say my tweets are personal and they are not endorsements, they treat you as a MICA professor, they are reading your content as a MICA professor, and they'll find faults when you are going to the cheap level, commenting on someone, trolling someone. So your personal life and your professional life, it's a very thin line. Yeah. It's blurring actually. So it is the challenge, bad part.
Good morning. Thank you for this session. My question is, I think 2 weeks back, a UAE-based Sharjah-based National Paints sacked an Indian employee because he posted some very abusive text to a journalist called Rana Ayub. What she said was that this would not have been possible had this been an Indian company, because somehow they resist to take such action. My question is, what is that ethical fine line between, you want employees to engage with extra social, political, economic issues beyond the workplace, right? I mean, that's an indicator of dynamism. So how should organizations deal and engage with such cases?
I think Google Gupta said that well. You have to comply with the laws of that particular land. Any breach of that, despite whatever judgment we might exercise or what is good and bad, is coming from our frame. But in the frame of that particular country, we cannot argue with that because they have their own laws. That's what I'd say.
But even in India, TVF, for instance, they have no option but to comply with law. After that woman went out and said that whatever has happened with her. So it's not that in India people don't take action. People do take action. I'm sure if you look around, you'll find examples of people losing job because of being indiscriminate or indiscreet on one of the social media platforms.
But despite all the laws, I'll tell you something that happens, and happens really well, is if there is somebody who's caught up in a country, there is a tweet to Sushma Swaraj and say, I need help. You look at this wonderful woman.
Yeah.
She reaches out, and this is incredible. Or our railways minister, you tweet anything to him, you will find that there is always a response. So we do have very responsible people, even in any part of the world. They take this up and they act upon it, regardless. Hey, there was a question from, yes.
Okay, just last question, yeah?
Okay. My question to the panel is, do you have a POV on, point of view on what is the fate of people that are social media shy? People that do not in the current age. We've spoken so much about what it cannot do. But what is the fate of people that are social media shy?
For me, it's a personal choice.
Yeah.
And there is no prescription to that. If you don't want to be, don't be there. There is nobody who can force you, and there is no reason for you to do what you don't want to do.
So, go ahead, Falguni.
Yeah. So for me, I believe if we restrict social media only to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, then I think it's definitely a personal choice. But social media is beyond that. So I have seen people who are social media shy who are expert bloggers. Right? So blogging, using mobile apps for interactions, using some social bridges for interaction is also the way out, but it's definitely it's a personal choice. The degree to which you want to engage in social media is a personal choice, and it's always not the best way to do it. So for example, if I'm doing it as a teacher to engage with my students, I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. It's defined by the person and your comfort, like in any situation, because your comfort will determine your confidence with which you will go on social media. If you're not comfortable doing it, it's okay not to attempt it. Personal choice.
I'd actually say you have to be authentic. You have to be absolutely authentic. If you're not comfortable with it, if you're not authentic, if you're not comfortable, stay away from that. It's perfectly okay. It's a matter of your choice. You have to be authentic, that's it.
The authentic, I think, is the key, because the genuineness is seen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you're genuine enough, you're genuinely engaging, or you're engaging for the sake of engaging. Yeah, I think that's the key.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm getting a signal that time's up, so we're going to call it to a close. I think my own takeaway has been that just like anything else in life, there is a good to social media, there is a bad, and there's an ugly. I think my bigger learning has been around how if you're on social media, you need to know very clearly what your purpose is, what your objective is, why you're there. And then you need to have a strategy that works. You need to have some skills or a buddy or an advisor who can guide you on when it goes off track, like it can sometimes go. But in the last 4 years, I think the number of friends I have made, the insights I have drawn, and just the way I see social media working across the world, whether it was the Arab Spring or the way social media has come up at times of disasters, and the examples of a Sushma Swaraj being accessible, completely disintermediating all kind of hierarchy and distance, other values, and I think that that's why it will continue to grow. Thank you very much to each of you. I loved your honesty, authenticity, and the fact that you shared your personal stories. And thank you for being a great audience.
Thank you.